This is our Democratic Forum here. We'll live stream it. We were just rudely told that these seats here are reserved. You can see there's no sign. There's no sign saying reserved at all. But yet we were yelled at by this gentleman here. The one in the middle there, I believe Mr. Butler, is just screaming at us saying, hey, hey. And they're doing politicking in here. This is not right. This is the way they treat the constituency. Yeah, I didn't hear any apology from the gentleman, but it's okay. No, I'm saying if these seats are reserved, then they should have a sign saying reserved. The constituent innocently sits here, and this gentleman yells at him, hey, 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 hey. Well, but it sounded, as a constituent, I have a right to be here, right? Yeah, we don't have to be polite to the constituency. I don't know. I'm live streaming this, so I hope for the best for the constituents. Yeah.
Please come to the front row.
Yeah, thank you.
Please come to the front row. We're going to get started in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to have to move it up high because of these are our candidates up here. We'll probably be told that we can't speak either. So. Oh, yeah. There they are. This part is not going to be live streamed, I'm sure. All the kissing. Yep, this is all the kissing, and these are the parties chosen. Welcome to Brooklyn. These characters should name themselves. I think this is Annette Robinson. I don't know who that gentleman is. I think this is Butler over there. This is Reynoso. This is Eric Gonzalez and Brannon over there. This is the part that's not live streamed. This is our
Good morning. We are going to get started. I know everyone has a busy schedule, particularly the candidates. And we're going to I'm Henry Butler, the district leader for the 56th Assembly District, representing neighborhoods of Bed Stuy and North Crown Heights. The rest of the board will introduce themselves afterwards. I also serve as the vice chair of the Kings County Brooklyn Democratic Party. And you're going to hear from our president, who's going to go over the agenda today. But before you hear from the president, we're going to bring up our senior advisor, the Honorable Dr. Annette M. Robinson, who's going to start us off with an opening prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Good morning, family.
Good morning.
Good morning.
as we enter into this election season, we asked, oh Lord, to bless us and keep us. Sweet Honey in the Rock sang songs of freedom and liberation. We that believe in freedom cannot rest. Fannie Lou Hamer sang, we can't let nobody turn us around. And so with that being said, I want to offer this prayer of thanksgiving to God, number one, and then thank him for starting us on our way this morning with a reasonable portion of health and in our right minds. We ask, oh Father, that you would bless this gathering this morning as we come together with candidates that seek to represent the people of this city and community. Father, we ask that you would bless them and you would strengthen them. Give them courage, oh Lord. Give them the intestinal fortitude that they need to go forward. These are very difficult and challenging times, and we ask that they're able to go forward and be able to be a beacon of light for our people. Father, we thank you today for yet another day that we've not seen before. And before I close, I can't close without acknowledging the Honorable Hazel Dukes, who passed this way, that we will pause. And also we had Valerie Simpson, not Valerie Simpson.
Roberta Flack.
Roberta Flack and Angie Stone. Those women passed this way, and they had something to offer, oh God. And so we must remember them as well because they made contributions. One, we know that Angie Stone was challenged with trying to free her music. Roberta Flack sang songs of liberation. Hazel Dukes acted on liberation. She challenged the system. We ask, oh Father, that as we move forward and as this organization moves forward to look at these candidates, that they will do what is right and what is just in this time, in this space, and in this place. Father, we thank you for yet another day. We thank you for the leadership of this organization. And we ask that as we move forward through this time, that we will have one mind and one spirit to be able to serve the people of this city and this community. This we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today. My name is Tiffany Burt, and I am the president of this illustrious organization, the Vanguard Independent Democratic Association. We thank you for being here with us today. And we thank all of our candidates for being with us as well, to just give everyone, to share your platform in this important election season. Every election is important. I just want to acknowledge the rest of our executive board members as they are here. Our two VPs of membership, Melissa Thomas and Aisha Williford. Our co-VPs of political and social action. I will start with the female district leader, Kanasia Trenum Cooper. And Mr. Marlon Rice. You already know the Honorable Annette M. Robinson, who serves as our senior advisor. Our leader of the Council of the Elders, who is Dean Richard Jones. Please keep him in your prayers. Our VP of Communications, who's in the back, he'll be around snapping pictures, doing all the great comms work, which is Sebastian Bush. I would like to acknowledge also our assembly member of the vibrant 56th Assembly District, Stephanie Zinnerman. So, for today, it is, he already introduced himself. He introduced himself first, but Henry Butler. Yes, we know that. Oh, and I'm sorry, and our treasurer, the most important person, the one who will take your dues today. So we stand in the back there, Mississippi and Penn. So, quick run of show for today. Get my notes up. quick one to show for today. We will start with all of our candidates that are running. We will start with actually our DA from our Brooklyn DA will go first. After that, then we will go with all of our candidates who are running citywide, and then we will go back to like our Brooklyn-wide candidates, or Brooklyn candidates specifically. How it's gonna be, everybody will have 3 minutes. We have a timer. 3 minutes to give your platform. Then 7 minutes for questions from VITA members only. If you are not a VITA member, please wait until after. If we have time, then we will make sure that you get a question in, but we need to make sure our members are served first and those questions are answered. I do want to say before we get started with our first candidate, we just want to, I would like to give the mic to our judicial candidate running right now, because she has to get out of here to do some canvassing work.
Thank you. Hi, good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday to all of you again. My name is Sheridan Jack Brown, and I am your judicial candidate for a civil court judge seat here in the 2nd Municipal District, which of course includes Bed Stuy, the Clinton Hill portion of the 57th District, the Northern Crown Heights in the 43rd District, as well as Ocean Hill in the 55th District, which is in Brownsville. So currently we are in the midst of petitioning season, so I just want to extend a heartfelt thank you for everyone who's out there collecting signatures, because this is a very important part of our election process. So again, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for your time. I truly appreciate it, and please continue to keep me in your prayers and your thoughts. And I'm gonna, end quickly because Henry Butler told me I only have like 90 seconds. So again, everyone enjoy your Saturday, and thank you so much again for your support.
Thank you very much. So first up, and you can use the mic on the side here, would be DA Gonzalez.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Madam President, to the entire VITA Executive Board, to our district leaders, Kenesha, Henry, to of course the incomparable Dr. Annette Robinson, my Assembly member Stephanie Zinneman, to all my elected officials, our borough presidents, Antonio and Mark and Dean, to Kari, to Justin Brandon, who is the elected council member and also the finance chair. To all of you, I say good morning. I'm asking VITA to help return me to lead the largest district attorney's office in the state of New York. Judge Waterman, nice to see you, to all our judges. I've been serving as DA, elected since 2018. As many of you know, roots in central Brooklyn, right? When my parents came from Puerto Rico, my dad and his family lived in Tompkins houses. My mom lived on Willoughby and Vernon. So family, I grew up in Williamsburg in East New York, and I served the late, great Ken Thompson as chief assistant before he passed. I promised 2 things back then when I was trying to succeed him, that I could do 2 things for Brooklyn. I would make sure that I would fight gun violence and bring down gun violence, that I would use the DA's office not simply to prosecute people who've been accused of committing crime, but use the power of the office to help protect people, help protect elders from scams and frauds, deed fraud, the many issues we have in our communities. It was not just about fighting crime, it was about using the office in ways that actually made it better for the people of Brooklyn. And I believe that during those years that I've been serving as your DA, I've done both things. I've brought down gun violence to record lows last year in 2024. Many people don't feel it, but statistically, and by lives saved, it was the safest year in Brooklyn's history in the last 50 years. And at the same time, I've done things to try to protect the community from abuse. And my job is more non-political than some of the other electeds you're going to hear from today. But I pledge this: when the tough times happen, and we know we're in tumultuous times, especially with our federal government, this DA's office, under my leadership, will fight for people. It will fight that our history is not erased. We will fight for immigrants and people who come here lawfully to make sure they're not unfairly treated. I will do everything in my power to fight an administration that's dead set against our community. And I say that proudly. In 2018, myself and Tish James, we sued Homeland Security. We sued ICE for unlawful actions in our courthouses. I will continue to partner with our great Attorney General and all of our leaders here to make it safer. Last piece, because I know it was 3 minutes. We can't fight crime simply by putting people in jail. We have to have a holistic approach. We have to have a community-based approach. And I did something that no DA has done. Project Restore. Ask me about it. I follow the rules. I'm a DA. I never follow the rules.
Thank you. See, 3 minutes. We are rocking and rolling this morning. We'll do 7 minutes for questions and answers. I would like to start with any VITA members who have questions.
Is there anything that we do about all these scams that we've been getting lately on our phone, email?
That's a great question. We are working on that, and there is a federal lawsuit, and the Attorney General is also working on some legislation. There's a bill up in Albany so that we can actually go after the people who are behind it. In my office, and Brooklyn, surprisingly, because you wouldn't think it would be Brooklyn, but Brooklyn has been the home to most of the cyber frauds and scams, right? Like, we've been targeted in the county. Now, maybe that makes sense because we're the largest borough, nearly 3 million people. But I started a cryptocurrency unit that helps people get their money back. And so we're working on that, but there is legislation, you should all pay attention to it, in Albany, that would allow us to go directly after the people behind it. Not just the criminals, but the people who carry it. So this cryptocurrency unit that I'm doing, we're going in and we're seizing illegal websites and domains so that there'll be less victimization, and we're trying to trace the money. The problem is this money, when they steal it, they send it to mostly China and Russia, and those countries won't work with our governments to get the money back. But we seize it so that at least they can't get it, and then hopefully the federal government will claw it back at some point.
There's another scam issue, the one that they're scanning people in there and wiping out their accounts. That gadget is sold for $20. I keep trying to find what it looks like. Can we figure out a way to get that out the stores?
So these skimmers and these devices, this is an old event. I think going into the banks is more new, but they used to have them at gas stations and ATMs, and they've been doing this for a while. We've prosecuted people successfwill with it. It's hard to catch them, but there's a lot of ways that we can do prevention work. And there is also legislation that says that we make the banks liable if it happens on their premises, so that people can get their money returned. To, if you know someone, let me know. Last piece is, I grew up on public assistance. I lived in housing that was subsidized, and many people who get assistance, WIC, and other those cards, these stores, you swipe it, they steal your money, and we have a pretty intensive investigation right now looking into those stores that are allowing those practices to happen. A lot of people don't report it because when they call, the government will give them back their money for that one time, but if it happens to you a second time, the government says you're out. And so we just have to continue to be vigilant, and please report it to me. Please report it to my office where these stores are happening, because often the stores they're allowing it to happen. They may not be taking part of the theft, but they know it's happening in their stores and they're not trying to prevent it. Yes.
Good morning. You started to talk about it. So one of my criteria for any elected official is that you have some sort of proven track record of sound policy and programmatic outcomes. So can you talk to us a little bit about Project Restore or another policy or program that you instituted that you think was beneficial and impactful to Brooklyn?
Yeah, so thank you, Assembly Member. And Assembly Member was part of Project Restore. It was open there. She was one of the leaders in the community who came forward. Listen, we all understand this. If you live in Bedford-Stuyvesant, East New York, where I'm at now, you know, Brownsville, any of our impacted neighborhoods that have high rates of poverty and a lot of housing, there's going to be a generation, particularly of young men, who are completely disengaged from regular society. And we have a choice to make as a society. Do we engage them, or do we just keep them as others and we try to avoid them? And what I believe is, as district attorney, is that if we engage them, if we go and we do things to show them how much we care about them and that we convince them that they have a future for themselves, we can keep crime down. So we can get involved with them before they start to commit crime. Project Restore, which was originally going to be called Project Restoration, but Restoration didn't want to have it. Project Restore Bed Stuy in particular was a chance to work with 30 gang members. We ultimately worked closer to 40 members. These were young men who were identified by this community and also by the NYPD as some of the young men most likely to be involved in gang and gun violence. And what we did is we poured into them for a year and a half, therapy, group therapy, individual therapy, job training. These were men that had nothing going on in their lives. They slept at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They didn't have driver's licenses. They didn't have bank accounts. They weren't in school. Out of these 30 men, it's been about 2 years now, Assembly member, only 2 of them have been arrested in the last 2 years. These were people believed to be the most dangerous in our community, and they're now productive. Some of them are in college, some of them are fathers, they're all working. It's proof that if we put resources into our communities, we're gonna get a better outcome for our children and for our families. As district attorney, I took $2 million out of my budget, working with a lot of providers, including Bridge Street here locally, to do this work, our violence interrupters. It is the type of intervention work that our city needs to do. Now remember, it's not an alternative to incarceration, because I wasn't prosecuting these young men. I was engaging them before I had to prosecute them. So thank you for the question. It works. Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, by the way, put on the federal budget about $1.6 million for us to continue this, and the Trump administration has blocked it. But I want to thank the congressman for putting federal dollars to this, not just city and state dollars. Thank you. And again, please support me. And I do want to thank those who are carrying my petitions. I don't take it for granted as of now. I believe, I just want to thank all of you for supporting me. And if you need any help, please reach out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, DA Gonzalez, for joining us. So next, we will go to our citywide seats, which would, the first ones are going to be our comptroller candidates. So today, we have with us Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine.
Thank you, President Burt. Good morning, Vida. Good morning. Honored to be here with Dr. Robinson, with District Leaders Butler and Tranum Cooper, and of course, Assemblymember Zennerman. This club, Vida, one of the most storied Democratic clubs in New York City. You have been key. You can applaud for that. Yes, you can. You have been key to every single election in the city in the last half century, from electing David Dinkins mayor to electing Barack Obama president. You're going to be key in this election cycle again. I know it. And we're going to vote in 3 months in the midst of a multi-front crisis. We have the worst affordability crisis in this city's history. Rents are out of control. We just got the February rents. The average rents in Brooklyn now for market rate apartments for the first time have passed over $4,000 a month. That's here in Brooklyn. This is pricing not just low-income people, but working class people out of our city. We have public safety challenges, driven in part by a broken mental health system. And it's all happening against the backdrop of a president in Washington who is targeting his cruelty and his chaos directly at us, at the people of the city, at the budget of the city. I am running to be your comptroller to take on these challenges. to build the affordable housing we desperately need in Brooklyn and everywhere, to get people who are suffering with severe mental illness off the street into the long-term inpatient treatment that they need, and to fight back against the Trump agenda. This is the job I've been preparing for my entire career. Since I started as a public school teacher, I taught junior high school in District 7 in the Bronx. I actually lived at the time on Clinton Avenue in DeKalb, not far from here, so I rode the G train before the G train was cool. It was back in the day. I went on to start a community development financial institution, a credit union, modeled on Central Brooklyn Federal Credit Union. You remember this back in the 90s? It was here on Fulton and Bedford, I think, started by the great Errol Lewis and Mark Winston Griffith. So they inspired me. We did it uptown in Washington Heights and West Harlem. It's called Neighborhood Trust. Still going strong today. $100 million of small loans in the community, helping people start a business, buy a computer, and more. I was elected to the city council in 2014, serving those neighborhoods, West Harlem and Washington Heights. And I passed legislation making New York City the first place in America where you now have the right to an attorney if you face an eviction in housing court. We did that here in New York. I also chaired the health committee in the city council during COVID, where I got to know some of you as we were fighting for our lives, fighting to stand up for science, fighting for equity and vaccination. I was very proud to lead for New York City in that difficult moment. And now as borough president of the second best borough, only one Brooklyn, right, Antonio? I put my heart and soul into the fight for affordable housing. This is the record I will take with me into the office of comptroller. I will use city pension money. I didn't hear the tune. Okay. All right, we'll cut off right there. More in the Q&A. Thank you so much.
Okay, now we have 7 minutes for questions from our VITA members to start. Anybody who has questions for Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine. Start in the back, sir.
How you doing? I just want to know, when you say affordability for housing, there's a scale or something that they use. When are they going to change that scale to actually mean affordability? Because that number is so high because it's covering such a broad region that it can't possibly do anything for the people in this community that actually need affordable housing.
What a great question, sir. What is your name, sir? Kevin. Very important question. That term affordability has been stretched beyond belief. There's some apartments targeted people making $130,000 a year that are still called, quote, affordable. We need to help people who are really struggling. And that should include even people making minimum wage, or bus drivers, or nurses' aid. We can do this. I'm very proud in Manhattan, in Inwood, we took an old library, we knocked it down, we built a new building with a new library on the base, 174 apartments, a 2-bedroom in this building rents for $680. Wow. A studio rents for $380. That is deep affordability that even someone potentially earning a minimum wage can't afford. We need to do this hundreds of times all over New York City. I'll tell you why. Those 170 apartments I just mentioned, 80,000 people applied. Right, so we are nowhere near meeting the need for affordable housing. And I will help solve this problem by investing some of our pension money in a prudent way that gets good returns for retirees in financing projects like this, deeply affordable, 100% deeply affordable housing throughout the 5 boroughs. This will be my top priority as your comptroller. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Elisa Abernathy. So I have a question to go back on that. I've been working in shelter for years. I actually work for a transitional housing facility. And so when I hear you say that you created these affordable units, I want to know, what are you doing how are they assessing the individuals that you pick? Because if you say $600, my understanding, most people that get into these affordable housings are under a certain income, they have a disability, they're getting vouchers. So when you say that, me, a person that's making a certain amount of money, I may not necessarily get selected for that unit. So how are you guys really doing the selection process, and what are you gauging and looking for to put them in these units?
It's a really good question. To apply for affordable housing in New York, you use the HPD website, something called Housing Connect. Right. and they're gonna ask you your income. And different projects have different income targets. This is what Kevin was referring to. Sometimes they have pretty high income targets, could be 6 figures, but they could be anywhere from 80,000, 60,000, 40,000 a year, depending on how big your family is. So you have to find a project that fits your income band, but really, the problem is we have been underbuilding for people who are at the lowest incomes, and that's always the hardest. But because we get so many applications, even people who meet the income requirements, it ends up being a lottery. It shouldn't be that way. When I moved to Clinton and DeKalb in the 90s, I didn't have to enter the lottery. I didn't have to go through HVD Connect. I just found a market rate apartment, and it was a big studio, and I think I paid $580 a month. We need to get back to that kind of New York City where anyone can find an apartment they can afford, and that's going to require us building a lot more housing. Hundreds of thousands of more units of housing for people of all incomes, and we can use the pension fund to help do that, and that's what I'm going to do as comptroller. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr.
We have
Robinson.
time for one more question.
Yes,
Dr. Robinson.
thank you so very much. What kind of concessions did you have to provide to the builders to be able to get that rent structure?
Well, we have it was a nonprofit developer, which is always best, and we did have to use a combination of both federal funding, low-income housing tax credits, which I'm sure you know well, which have been used a lot in Central Brooklyn, and then HPD had to put in some extra subsidy through a program called ELA, extremely low and low income. But when you rolled it all up, we could keep the rents just as low as I said. It's hard to do, but we need to do this. And we need to do it in many more locations. And we need to combine a nonprofit developer and some federal funding and city subsidy. This is doable, and I'm gonna do it in many more places. Thank you, Dr. Robinson. I think that's my time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Vida. Thanks so much.
Our next candidate up for comptroller is Brooklyn Council Member Justin Brandon.
Thank you so much, Madam President. Dr. Robinson, it's great to see you. I can't come to Vida without mentioning Al Van. I served as a little young staffer in the city council, and Al Van was always very cool to this tattooed kid from Bay Ridge, and I never forget that. So respect to Al and his memory of what he did for this neighborhood and this club. So yeah, give it up for him. I am Councilman Justin Brandon, born and raised in Brooklyn. I currently represent Southern Brooklyn in the City Council. It goes from Bay Ridge all the way to Coney Island. My mom is a teacher. My dad was a salesman. My wife is a teacher and a small business owner. Growing up, I wanted to be a member of the Rolling Stones, not a member of the City Council. I learned 3 chords in junior high school, and those 3 chords afforded me 10 years touring the world as a professional musician. The band I was in, you only needed to know 3 chords. And now I decided I wanted to go back and give back to my community. I got a job working for my predecessor. That's when I met Al Van. And then I ran for office years later and became the city councilman for the neighborhood where I grew up. In that time, I've managed to bring back almost $300 million of investments into my district by fighting hard. One thing in Brooklyn we know how to do is fight hard over every damn crumb. We shouldn't have to fight so hard, but we know how to fight if we need to, right? I'm building 7 new public schools in my council district because it's so overcrowded, and I want kids to have that same opportunity that I had when I was growing up. I'm running for controller now because I'm currently chair of the finance committee in the city council, where I oversee the largest municipal budget in the country at $115 billion. How many people in here feel like they live in a city with a $115 billion budget? Just one. That's the problem. The problem is we got all the money we need, but it's not working for us. It's not working hard enough. I know when you guys all wake up and go to work, you work pretty damn hard, right? The city is not working hard enough for you. That money is not working for you. A lot of talk about affordability these days. The cost of living doesn't stop going up, right? We've got a tool. We can't be bystanders. As politicians, we can't sit on the sidelines. We have a $115 billion budget, a $300 billion pension system. Those are the sharpest tools we have to bring down the cost of living in the city by ensuring that that money is being spent efficiently and wisely. I'm talking about investing in CUNY, investing in early childhood education, investing in our parks, in our libraries, all the things that keep New York City the greatest city on the planet. The New York Post will tell you that rich people are fleeing the city. It's not true. Don't believe it. You know who's fleeing the city? Working families are fleeing the city because they can't afford to live here. We've got a way to bring down the cost of living in the city and keep working families here. As controller, my main focus will be bringing down that cost of living by investing in the programs and priorities that make this city great. And that is my promise to you, Vida, and I hope you'll endorse me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Questions? Yes, Kevin?
I'm ready for you, Kevin.
What's going to be your major focus as a controller?
Probably three top things. Number one would be affordability is what everybody's talking about. Everyone in Vida knows we've been talking about affordability for 30 years. The city just didn't get expensive yesterday, right? But now it's the top thing. But the government can't sit around and shrug and go, well, that sucks. What are we going to do about it? We are in the room where it happens, and it's our job to use every tool at our disposal to bring down that cost of living. Because working families are the bedrock of this city. If we lose working families and working people, we lose everything. There's plenty of cities around the country who would love to take our crown as the best city in the world, and they're breathing down our neck right now. Number two is auditing these agencies to make sure we're getting the best bang for our buck, because right now we're not. Department of Education has a $35 billion budget. Find me two parents in the city of New York who feel like their kids are getting a $35 billion education. And I'm a public school kid, nothing but respect for our public school teachers, but all my family is teachers. That $35 billion is not meeting their classroom either. I don't know where it's going, but I want to find out because it's not going to the classroom, okay? We got to talk about borough equity, right? There's some neighborhoods that the further away you are from City Hall, the less attention you get. And we're tired of fighting over crumbs. With a $115 billion budget, we got enough money to go around, but we have to focus on borough equity, getting money to Central Brooklyn, getting money to Southeast Queens, getting money to the South Bronx. These are neighborhoods that are the fuel of our economy, and they feel neglected for a reason, and it's on us to fix that. And Donald Trump is coming for us, right? He showed us he told us what he was going to do, and now he's doing it. We've got to fight like hell to make sure that he doesn't come for our city and that we're protecting our money, protecting our pensions for our retirees. Those are my priorities.
Assembly member?
Chair. Thank you. Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm glad you brought up pension. So as you know, there are 5 pension funds that total almost $300 billion.
Yep.
Talk to us about how you're going to utilize that.
Sure.
That huge amount of money, and then making sure that we actually protect those whose money that actually is, so that they have retirement. And if you have time, because you talked a lot about it, how are you going to stand up to the next mayor with regard to the fiscal responsibility of the city?
Sure. First thing, the pension funds. We've got almost $300 billion in pension funds. The number one thing is to make sure you're getting stable, reliable returns for the about 750,000 retirees that benefit from that pension fund. That's number one. But I think we could get much more creative with our pension funds. Leveraging ETIs to invest in affordable housing for New York City workers, the way that we built back in the day when we did Mitchell-Lama, we need to do that kind of thing again. We have to dream big again in the city of New York. We can't just play defense. We also have to dream big. I also have a plan on my website to start a fund for MWBEs because the city sets great laudable goals for MWBEs, but it's a bunch of lip service because they're not setting them up to succeed and be competitive. I want to create a fund that would allocate 1% of all pension fund investments to a fund strictly for MWBEs to give them easier access to credit and capital so they can compete in these RFPs. This is something I wrote an op-ed about it in the Amsterdam News with Bertha Lewis. It's a big, big deal. The city says a lot of great stuff for MWBEs, but they're not following it up. That's something else I'd like to do. I also think we could get better returns on our fees. We got a $300 billion pension system. I think the dynamics are a little backwards, right? If these fund managers are not giving us the best bang for our buck, then we could take our money down the street to a different fund manager and negotiate different terms. I think the power dynamic is a little flipped there. I also want to get out of oil and gas investments completely because we need to have a planet to enjoy our pensions on. So number one thing over the next 4 years with Donald Trump breathing down our neck is going to be safeguarding that pension system and making sure that it's growing at a stable rate of return, but also leveraging that pension system to invest in the creation of affordable housing and other regenerative investments that keep the city strong.
We have time for one more
I
question.
just have one question in regards to that. Could you tell me,
Of course, not.
you're the chairperson of the Finance Committee
That's right.
for the New York City Council.
Yes.
I want to know, in terms of money management, how many management agencies of color are used in the city of New York currently?
Not enough. I'll tell you that. Not enough. And this is another thing I have on my website about diversifying our fund managers. The people that manage the city's money should look like the city of New York. And we need to prioritize working with a lot of those MDIs and working with those black-owned banks. Absolutely. This is something I've worked on with Senator Sanders in Queens. Very, very important. I have a whole thing about it on my website. The answer is not enough. And again, it's because their power dynamic is shifted. There's a lot of companies that would love the chance to manage our money who are well qualified, and we need to be putting them first and making sure that we're bringing them business too, because we're not doing enough there at all.
Is that because you still have a level of money that must have been managed by them?
Yeah,
Before they can participate?
there's a lot of obstacles, but we're setting them up the same as MWBEs. We're saying, okay, go compete for these big RFPs, but they don't have the capacity to win. And then when they fail, we say, oh, well, we tried. It's wrong. It's got to be fixed. Thanks, Doc.
Oh, so can you talk about transparency for property tax reform? Because we have homeowners here in Bed Stuy.
Sure.
They're going to go from $10,000 to $50,000 property tax.
Sure.
There's somebody on my block, it's going to go up 1,000%. So transparency on the website, it'd be nice if a person could plug in their address and see what the effect of the property tax reform is.
So if you go on Google and you put in Justin Brannon property tax reform, you'll find 7,000 articles on there that I've been yelling about property tax reform for years. For years, before it was cool, I was talking about, it's not cool. Before it was cool, I was talking about property tax reform. The fact is, people in our neighborhood, in central Brooklyn, to Bay Ridge, to Southeast Queens, we are all paying more in property taxes than folks with $1 million houses in Manhattan. The system is broken, it's busted, it's dysfunctional. It's set up to be a system of winners and losers, and right now people like us are losing because politicians don't have the courage to actually stand up for the folks that would then become the losers in the scenario. It's got to be fixed. I've worked hard against the third-party transfer, against lien sale reform to keep people in their homes and get them back on a track to pay their bills. Property tax reform has been one of my top priorities as controller. It will remain one of my top priorities. We need Albany's buy-in to. Thank you.
But
Thank you.
yeah.
Sorry,
just
those
one-
are the questions, that's all the time we have for questions.
That's
The
not an
next
accurate
candidate-
statement.
The next candidate will be our state senator, Kevin Hart.
I'm going to disappear. Peace out, everybody.